Hello and welcome to the Saintly Sounder, your source for all things FIFA. Today I have a new segment for you. It's called Hype Train. It's going to be a quick fix. It's where I talk about 3 players that I've used that I have found to be absolutely dreadful. Before I start, because these are bad reviews and they may offend some people who really enjoyed some of the players I'm going to mention in this series, these are my experiences with these players after a minimum of 15 games. But your playstyle, instructions, or formations may change your experience with any player. For example, Gundogan may be necessary in your squad, or Maxim Choupo-Moting may fit your playstyle a lot better than he fit mine. But I just want to give you guys a heads up about players that I think are hyped as really good players to have in your squad, or necessary players to have in your squad, that I found let me down. First up on the list is Inform Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. I know he's a fan favorite on Reddit and Foothead and just about everywhere, but for me he's a 6 out of 10. His pace was not enough to create very much on his own. His outside the box shooting was very poor. His inside the box shooting was very poor as well. His skill runs were actually pretty decent, especially for a big striker. His heading, a 7 out of 10. He lost way too many headers to smaller guys. At 6'3", you'd expect a lot more. Assisting, he felt good passing, but had no assists to speak of in the 15 games I gave him. And his breakaways, like I said, with his pace, he simply could not stay away on breakaways, which is a big deal for me. His point per game score after 15 games was 1 goal, 1 assist. By far the worst striker I've ever given more than 10 games to. I've heard a lot of things about how to fix it, but to be honest, I'd be very hesitant about going back to him. Unless he were to get a second in form, then his stats would actually become really, really good to me, and perhaps worth a second shot. Up next is probably the best pure center defensive mid in the Bundesliga, and I found him to be quite horrible. I now avoid him in most squad builds. Overall, I'd give him a 7 out of 10. His pace was more than enough for the position, but as you might know, his shooting is so bad. You're really not going to score unless you're 2 feet away from the goal, and even then he might miss. Dribbling, he turned really slowly. I mean, probably average for a CDM in that aspect. His defending, an 8 out of 10. He did the job on defense for the most part, although he did tend to be kind of klutzy. And his physicality was okay. He's a big boy. Now, the reason why I mark him so low is because he's the only option, and that I feel like I need a little bit more out of a player before I'd consider him good enough to be in any one of my main teams. Even a fitness team, I wouldn't really use him because his passing, he passed in the 60 and 70% range, which isn't good enough, and he doesn't provide anything going forward, so that's why I rate him so low. The reason why Ilkay Gundogan makes this list is because I loved him last year, and this year he's absolutely failed. His shooting just is not up to scratch. 6 out of 10 for me. He couldn't finish inside the box. He doesn't have the shot power for outside the box shooting. His pace is really good. He's quick. He's a little small, though, which definitely hurts his physicality, and his defending is let down by his not only his high work rates, but his size and strength really let him down in the defending and physical aspect. His dribbling, it says 85 on the card, but he really doesn't live up to that. He can do a fair bit of weaving, but what you expect out of a guy with 85 plus dribbling is to be able to do a lot of skill runs, and he really can't do it. His passing was okay. I didn't notice really until I actually looked at his stats how poorly he was performing. He wasn't adding anything to my squad. In 45 games, he averaged 0.1 points per game, which is absolutely miserable. I expect at least 0.5 out of my center mids, which is where I deployed him, and that's why I put him on the hype train bandwagon. Alright, so if you found this at all interesting, helpful, or controversial, like and subscribe. I'm on Twitch at the Saintly Sounder, and I'm on Twitter at the Red Death 329. Sorry if this offended anybody. Until next time, see you on the pitch.